We're just going to see what happens. All right, let's see what happens here. We've got Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. All right, I'm just going to roll with this. It's so we're experimenting here. We're doing 3 different networks at once. We're going to see how that goes. Except I'm trying to look at the camera and trying to see that I can see Instagram if somebody comes on. Okay. All right. I hope I'm going to be able to read the screen. All right. Oh, you can actually see Instagram gets to see all the emptiness.
Yeah.
We're doing some work around here, and this is our live show. This is our 3rd episode. But we're doing some work around here. We've got some paint going on. We just got a couch in yesterday. Lots of stuff going on. Trying to make this area something that we can utilize for a studio. And so we're going to use this in different capacities. The podcast, the recordings here. I got a couch over there, and so we'll be able to see all that. If you guys do have questions, go ahead and post them. I will make my best effort to be able to read it. But like I said, I'm looking off multiple cameras, and so you might see my eyes going into different places. So just bear with me as I practice this stuff. You guys are going to be witnessing me practice, so I apologize in advance. One of the topics I wanted to talk about was apologizing to our children. And I think it's something that we don't do that often. And I'm going to give you an example. So just the other day, I got very upset at my daughter. I was already in a, not necessarily a great mood, and I got upset. And so when she was saying something, I went over to her and put my hand on her and kind of grabbed her tightly. And I wasn't going to hurt her, but it was something where my emotions overtook me. I sort of grabbed her tightly and I was yelling. I was very, very upset. And so it gave me, and so that happened. She was really kind of scared. I could, but at the time didn't matter. I was so upset at some other things. And so I kind of let it out on her. Full disclosure. So, and this happens to all of us. And so what happened was, she got upset. She started crying. She went to her room. I didn't even say anything. And I was in my office for a couple minutes. And I heard her. She was getting ready for bed. And I heard her. And so I went out and went into her room and said, hey, because I had thought about this and realizing, like, regardless of the fact that I thought that she was wrong because of what she had done, she didn't deserve for me to talk to her like that. And that was something that, I was thinking about it right after it happened. And I said, she did something that wasn't okay in the way that she was speaking with me and what she was saying. But at the same time, she didn't deserve to be treated like that. And so I immediately then went over to her and apologized. And this is not something I think that we as parents do, but that often, but I think it's really important because it's showing the example to them on how we do get upset. We lose our temper, but we also need to realize when we make a mistake. And so I went over to her, started talking with her, and had said, hey, you know what? I really apologize for how I acted and what I did. And like I said, because I could see that she was scared at the time, because when I get angry and I start talking loud, she's going to be scared. She's a young girl. If it was a young boy, it doesn't matter. I'm saying it was as a young child. And so, yeah, I just could see that I had made a mistake, and she was receptive to that. And children typically are receptive to that. So she looked back at me and just said, it's okay, and I understand. And I said, now, at the same time, and then we went ahead and discussed what she had talked about and how she apologized as well. So I think it's something that we don't do very often, is apologize as parents for how we acted, whether it is us yelling, whether it is us trying to discipline them, something. We don't think that we're often wrong. So that's the case. And I just wanted to share that because I felt like it was really something that, I think we all face. We all face those difficult situations, and we get upset. Everybody does. And then we try to or we just let it go, or we don't say anything. But in this case, I knew that it was probably best for me to apologize, not only for myself to feel better, but I think that she felt better, and then she also saw the example. And I can guarantee you that at some point, when she's going to get upset, she's going to come back around and apologize and realize and say, you know what, maybe I should have handled that better. So if you guys have questions, please post them on your channel. If you are looking at this camera, this is YouTube. We have Facebook right here, and then we have Instagram over there. So just want to welcome everybody. If you're watching this live, that's awesome. If you are watching this on a recording, that's cool too. We appreciate the support. Be sure to subscribe, follow, check out all our social channels. If you're on YouTube, be sure to click that notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. We always say that in our videos. So, but if you do have a question, post it. Something else that I wanted to talk about is, what was the video for this week? I'm forgetting even the days of the week right now. Let's see. Gosh, there's so many topics going on. How to improve your child's confidence. Sorry, that was we have a lot of different topics going on, a lot of different things. So one of the things I tackle this week, coming out Thursday, is children's confidence and how to boost that confidence. And there's a couple things that we can talk about of how to boost their confidence. First, you have to love them unconditionally. Whether they win or lose or they're successful or not, you want to make sure that you're loving them unconditionally. Another thing, don't do everything for them. So I think, as parents, we think that we are helping them by doing things for them. At the same time, we want to make sure that they're doing things for themselves. All right, so now I'm starting to get questions in. So, hey, Aaron, how are you? We're starting to get some questions here. Let me see if I interrupt what I'm doing. Let's see. I'll have to figure this one out. Hey, Mariana. No, that's okay. The questions go away, and so I can't really see them. Yeah, I know you push.
There they are.
So, Justin, how do I make my 15-month-old stop hitting in the face? Well, so here's the thing. A 15-year-old is going to do that, no question. Sorry, yeah, 15-month-old. 15-month-old is going to do that. What happens is that they are figuring out the world right now, and they don't really know what is good, what's bad, what is right, what's wrong. And so until we teach them, they're not exactly knowing what's right. So what happens, or a good technique for this is, when your child hits, is you actually can grab their wrist or grab their hand and then say no, pretty firmly. You say no and then say soft. So you can sort of you take their hand, you say no, soft. You'll probably have to do this 1,000 times, no joke. But yeah, you'll want to do that and just make sure that they're understanding what hard is and what soft. So you say no hitting, and then do it soft, and they'll be able to understand that. So, good question, no? Thank you. Let's see. So I'm going to switch back. I was going back to ways that. You're welcome, Justin. Thank you for posing the question. So going back to the idea of building confidence. So we do need to stop doing things for our kids. Now, not saying you don't ever do anything for your kids, but we're talking about, making their lunch if they're old enough, tying their shoes, getting them dressed, carrying their backpack. I mean, even just I see, parents walking their kids to school, carrying their kids' backpack. If your child is old enough to have a backpack, they can carry it themselves. Why does Facebook seem so dark? The lighting. I don't know. Aaron, if you are there, we need some lighting assistance. So John asks, how do you handle temper tantrums in public places? So I think it does depend on the age of the child, because there's kind of different techniques for things. But one of the things that you need to do is you need to be aware, of course, and it's easier said than done, but be aware prior to the temper tantrum happening. So I just did a video on temper tantrums and how to avoid them and then how to deal with them. But basically, you're going to want to make sure that you're preempting that with understanding how you get to the temper tantrums. So, but if you are in a public place and you see a temper tantrum, you basically ignore it. It's embarrassing. Hey, you're in the middle of the store and your child throws a temper tantrum. It's embarrassing, but it's not the first time that they've probably ever done that. So over time, what happens is as you treat that temper tantrum as really, it's no big deal. You don't give them the attention, you don't give them the cookie or the toy or whatever it is that they're asking for. You simply remain calm. Depends, and this is honest talk here. It's like when you're in a store and they're throwing the temper tantrum, we get upset or we feel embarrassed. I recall feeling this way of people looking at you and saying, oh, what, look at that kid, or, that parent can't handle that child. But if you actually turn it around and you're very calm, anyone who has a child and they see a toddler there is going to know that that's what toddlers do. So if you are concerned about what other people are thinking, is you remain calm and you remain very, very just normal. And let's say your child is throwing the tantrum, you say, no, I'm sorry, you can't have that cookie. And you keep going and you just do what you need to do. So part of it is just not paying attention to them. And over time, kids will learn that. And here's the thing. Kids throw temper tantrums because they work. Because the parent then gives in because they just want the temper tantrum to stop. So that's what you have to do, is not give in to the temper tantrum. You got to remain calm. If you have to back out, or if you're with your spouse or something, you can say, hey, you know what, you handle this one. I'm going to go take a break. But you have to remain calm. Another tip I would recommend, now that, is not to take it personally. So we have a tendency, I know as men, that we take the temper tantrums personally. We feel like they're out to get us, or that the child is trying to embarrass us or make a fool of us. And the truth is that the child has no idea about us. They're trying to figure out their world. And so a temper tantrum is them trying to communicate. And so they will, yell, scream, try to get their way. And a lot of times we give in. And so that's part of the problem. And so ignore them, or just remain very calm and say, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, you can't have that, is going to help. And so that's part of also what we talk about in the video. It's a couple weeks back, a couple videos back, is just how to deal with those temper tantrums and how you can manage them so that they're not crazy and they're not out of hand. But keep in mind, every toddler has them. So you are not unique. Everybody has them. Everybody deals with them. So great questions. Any other questions? Let's see. I'm getting used to this thing. Trying to see. So I got Instagram. So Habib Ali asks, how can... Oh, it went off the screen again. I got to figure out how to keep that on the screen.
Where's the comments?
No. There's... So how can I deal with a 2-month-old crying? So 2-month-olds are going to cry. And so there's usually a couple of reasons why they're crying. They are crying because they're hungry, they're crying because they're tired, or they're crying because they need to be changed. So those are the three main reasons why they'd be crying. And so first, you're going to want to make sure that all three of those are not an issue. So you can look at, what time is it? Well, they're tired and they're cranky and such, or they're hungry. They haven't eaten for a while, and so they're wet and they need to be changed. The other can just be attention. Maybe they just want attention. So how to deal with the baby crying. I think you have to kind of look at it in a perspective as one. You can't, just like I talked about in the other thing, you cannot take it personally. Do not take a baby's crying personally. It's something that they just do. So don't worry about that. What is there something? Oh, no, it's okay. We're just trying to figure out the logistics here. I've got, like I said, I'm watching a Facebook, a YouTube, and Instagram. We've got 3 different phones going until I get a service which streams it out. If you guys have any recommendations for simulcasting, that would be, I think, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Hold me to it, I think. Yeah, so we're gonna be doing that. As far as stopping the baby from crying or how to deal with the crying, I think you can't take it personally. That's something that's really difficult. As men, we kind of take it personally. We think that the child's out to get us, and they're not. They're just, again, trying to communicate. So I think that's one. The other is remaining calm. One of the things that I think, babies know it. They have sort of this intuitive way of understanding when you get frustrated. And so if you can remain calm, that's going to be better for everybody. So, obviously it sort of has its own cycle effect. In other words, you're calm, or when the baby starts crying, you get a little bit worked up, and then the baby starts crying more. So you want to just remain calm if you can. That's another tip. Maybe you can post the situation in which your baby is crying, so I might be able to provide you a little bit more detail on that. If you want to write that in and kind of say, when is your baby crying, just in general, how do you deal with it? But if you're having difficulty, with sort of dealing with the baby, you want to learn maybe techniques of how to stop the baby from crying. There is an excellent video for very small babies. There's an excellent video on YouTube. If you just say stop, search stop crying baby, you basically cross the arms of the baby and then lay it forward on your arm so that the baby is looking out. And this doctor literally shows him, quieting babies in no time. So it's kind of an interesting thing that's happens. I wish I would have known that technique when I had my first child and second child, but I didn't. So I'd love to see if there's other babies that they can try it with. But understanding what it is that your baby is crying, typically they're crying for a reason. They either, like I said, they need to be changed, they're hungry, they're tired, or they want attention. And so there is nothing wrong with the baby crying and you picking up the baby. The issue with that is that obviously that the baby learns that if they cry, they get the attention. So you've got to balance that a little bit. I once heard this thing where a deaf couple had a baby, and the baby didn't cry. And the baby didn't cry because they can't hear it. So if the baby cries, they realize that, there's nothing that can come of that. The baby's not going to get much attention. The parents aren't going to hear it. So the baby actually learned to vibrate things. And so they would either bang on something or get their attention that way. So the baby's not crying, but then the baby was like shaking things or making vibrations. So it's just interesting. It's a learned behavior, actually. And as we learn more, that's many things with the babies. It's with the crying, it's with the temper tantrums, it's with all of these things. They're learned behaviors. So we want to be mindful of that and understand that if we can break that pattern, that's going to be valuable. So, great questions. Any other questions? Let's see. Marianne, you have any questions? Thank you. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, you're welcome, Habib.
What social media do you guys use the most for looking up information?
If you guys can tell me too, what social media channel do you guys use the most? If you're on live, go ahead and post. Is Instagram where you'd like to see a live show? Is YouTube where you'd like to see the live show? Or is Facebook where you want to see the live show? If you're watching this as a recording, please provide that feedback for that channel and let me know. We're going to be trying to post it into multiple channels, but it's always interesting to know and hear from the people watching it that that it's good. So John, YouTube makes sense. So in addition to live, what channel do you guys spend the most time on? That's something else too. Is where do you get your information and spend the most time on? That's something that's really interesting too, because we see Dad University has different channels of which we post things in which we participate, and it's kind of interesting to see the variances in the different channels. So again, I'm watching Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. A question that came up recently in my comments, I wanted to sort of touch on, maybe get some feedback as well, is discipline of your child. And so one of the arguments was, because I talk about grounding, and surprisingly, a lot of people who are watching that video and commenting on that video are kids who have been grounded. And I think they're trying to get justification of why they shouldn't be grounded, and they're trying to provide that to their parents. So I'm happy to be a resource for kids that are getting grounded, because the argument is that the grounding doesn't work. So the argument or the comment was, if you're not grounding and you're not punishing the kids, then how do they learn? How are they accountable for what they're doing? And my response to that would be that when you start children off at a very young age with very little, if none, very little negative consequences or punishments, and at the same time, very little or no reward, they have the ability to learn, and you teach them right from wrong, making good decisions, those kinds of things. So it's important. And granted, you can't just switch this overnight. This is not something that the child is 12 years old and then you're all of a sudden not doing this. But the question being, the child's doing something wrong, they should be punished. That's sort of the normal thing. Whether they get grounded, they have things taken away from them. And the way that I prefer and that I've taught with my own children is, you talk about it. And that's how I was raised. So, I did things as a kid where it wasn't a good thing. Maybe I got in trouble or, somewhere, maybe at school, or did something. And my parents would have the tendency to talk about it. I didn't get grounded. I got explained to why it was wrong and how I shouldn't do it. And, the question being is does that stop you? Well, the hope is that it does. And when you do that over time and you're doing that over and over and over again, then yes, it does stop you. I'd like to think that, I grew up, being moral and being nice to people and doing it. That's not my own doing. It's my parents who, would explain things to me and do that. So I wasn't grounded in that sense. I wasn't punished in that sense. I was educated and I was coached and I was told about what right and wrong was. And, we're helping our children learn right from wrong, and we're helping them understand things. And so punishing them, and it's been proven that punishment doesn't change behavior. I did the extreme example of talking about prisons and how prisons don't rehabilitate. 70 or greater percent of people who go to prison go right back in afterwards, so that they're not doing a good job of rehabilitating. So punishment in itself doesn't curb the behavior. It doesn't make someone then want to change the behavior either. All it does when you're punishing your child, what it does is it makes them not like you, or it makes them get upset at you. It doesn't make them think about what they did wrong. And we may say that. We'll say, hey, you better think about what you did and how you could do that. Well, that's a more important conversation than them sitting in their room, for no reason, and they can't do something. So that's where this argument of punishment not having punishment, no grounding, a lot of people who grew up that way don't really understand it, or quite frankly don't agree with it, and that's okay. I mean, if they want to continue to punish their kids that way, their kids will just become better liars, you know, sneak better, and they'll have less communication with their children, and they'll have some difficulty. I'm talking extreme and I'm joking, but at the same time, I've seen examples over and over and over again where when the child is treated in a respectful way and is taught and is coached, that the end result is going to be much more positive for both. It's going to be a better relationship between the parent and the child, and I think they're going to get a lot more out of that. So, welcoming on Facebook, Jason, good to see you. Taylor, good to see you. Taylor, just saw your latest video. Excellent. Very, very good. If anybody, go follow Taylor on Facebook. He's excellent. Dude Dad does an excellent job. I'm also on Instagram right now. Mike, good to see you. How are you? And then we got YouTube going as well. So if you guys have questions, I think I'd mentioned in the beginning, I'm sort of experimenting with a live show. Been doing weekly shows, produced weekly shows, recorded weekly shows, I should say, for almost a year and a half, coming on a year and 3/4, something, I don't know, 80 episodes, but I had to do my math really quick. So we're going to be doing a live show, and I think that this will lend itself to some pretty interesting topics, some pretty interesting interaction. And as of right now, we're going to plan on doing that on Tuesdays. So Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. If something changes and demand changes, then we'll go ahead and change it. But so that's something else. Getting back to the discipline. So I think that it's a difficult topic, and so the other part of kids, or I should say, not having punishment, is also the part of not having reward. So on the other end of the spectrum, it's rewarding children for getting good grades, rewarding children for cleaning, rewarding children for doing these things. I personally disagree with it. It's the same thing as the punishment, or I should say it's on the opposite end, but the same thing is that you're not going to want to reward them for something that they should be doing anyways. So that it's like doing their chores, for example. A lot of people, they'll pay their kids for doing chores. I personally like to separate it out, and the fact is that they're doing responsibilities to be part of the family. That's everybody in the family helps out, and that's why they do that. In the same token, they may get an allowance of some kind because they are part of the family. They get an allowance. So I don't directly tie the chore to the amount being paid. And the reason for that is that then you have a tendency to have kids be like, well, how much am I going to get if I do that? How much do I get if I wash your car? Or, if I help out with am I going to get paid for that? And instead of, feeling like that's just a job, that's part of the gig. That's part of something that you just have to do. You're part of the family. So that's something that's important. And so, in grades as well, paying for good grades, gotta say that's not a good tactic. If the child doesn't want to study, it's either because they don't feel like that's valuable enough. They could have some learning issues, whatever. But ideally, we want them to want to learn. And so we have to encourage that and help them understand. Now, as they get older and they make the decision that it's not for them, it might be hard, but we have to be okay with their decision. As they get older and they start making decisions for themselves, you lay out, hey, here's what's the situation is, here's where I'm suggesting that you need to do, or here's what I'm suggesting you need to do, but it's ultimately up to you and it's ultimately your decision. So those kinds of words come out of my mouth and my wife's mouth a lot with our children, and they're 8 and 10, they're young. But we will often say, you know what, that's up to you. Here's the situation. You can do this, this, and this. You can do that, and here's what's probably going to happen if you decide that you're not going to do your assignment. That's up to you. If you're going to get in trouble at school or you're not going to get a good grade, that's up to you. That's your decision. And what you do is you end up empowering them, and so far, knock on some wood, some cheap wood, um, you know, so far that's worked. I can't say it's going to work forever, but I think it's going to work for, for at least right now. It seems to be working. Is we allow them to make their own decisions, and we allow them to, kind of create their own destiny as well. We might guide them, especially if we see that they're going in a direction that we don't think is best for them, but ultimately we're there to coach them and we're there to guide them. Angel, how are you? Good to see you. Poppy Preschool, good to see you there. If you guys are on Instagram, Poppy Preschool, I just did an interview with Angel. Great page there. Does an Instagram live. Go ahead and check him out as well. So this is good. I can plug everybody else while I'm doing this. I appreciate everybody's support. Thank you guys. So I know it's kind of funny, but we're doing this. I'm if you guys have any, I think I had mentioned it, but it's live. So if you have any suggestions for live streaming and consolidating these things. We're trying to do YouTube and Facebook and Instagram all at the same time. So I've got 3 phones, 3 tripods. It looks a little weird. I'm like, seeing yourself in 3 different dimensions is a little strange. But I wanted to say we're fixing up this studio, which is one of our old office space. We've moved now to another office space. Just got a couch in yesterday, fixing the backdrop, the lighting. Got some stuff coming on, so I want to be able to support all the content that we want to put out. I guess I'm not going to sleep very much, but we have a lot of content that we're going to put out. And then you keep on seeing me maybe look over. I'm looking at my assistant, who's kind of the puppeteer with all the social stuff. So I just come here and talk, and everything is all set up, which is awesome. So yeah. So if you guys have any topics that you think we should cover, please, feel free to jot them down. I'll answer any questions that you might have. One of the things too that I get asked often is sort of why I'm doing this. I can tell you it's not to get rich, because if that was the case, I would probably epically fail. But it's cathartic. I can say that this is something, talking about these issues is really important to me. It's something that I've learned a tremendous amount over the last couple of years, and in learning these techniques, I feel like I'm able to share that with other people. And so here's the other part, is that there's not really a lot of voices for dads in talking about serious topics. I just earlier was mentioning a situation that happened with my daughter the other day. And being able to share that sometimes is hard, but I think it's very important, is that we all get frustrated. We all have, I'm sweating, there's a little bit of warm here. We all get very frustrated. We all, we have difficulties, and I think it's important to talk about it and not to feel like, hey, I can't open up, or I don't want to talk about it, or I'm scared to talk about it, or it's not cool to talk about it. A woman approached me the other day and was talking about a friend of hers who actually came to her, and it's a longtime friend of hers, male, who said, he just doesn't enjoy being a dad. And so, that's a real statement. And I shouldn't say that he never enjoys it. He says, often I'm not enjoying being a dad. So I wanted to ask more questions, because, one of the things he had felt was that everybody who he sees and who's around thinks that just, being a dad is this amazing thing, has fun all the time, just loves being involved with the school, loves being a dad. And then you have this guy who doesn't. And so I started asking a couple questions, and one of the things I had immediately asked was, what else is going on? When we have a situation like that and we have negative feelings towards something that's that big, as being a father, typically there's other things going on. And so one of my first questions was, how's his relationship with his wife? Or, how's his work situation or financial situation? So what can happen is those other things can absolutely affect how we interact with our children. And so the example that I gave, that I got upset at my daughter, quite frankly, yes, my daughter did some things and how she was talking and what she said, but it didn't warrant the reaction that I had. And the reason I reacted the way that I did was because of how upset I was about other things. I'd had just a frustrating day I almost said at school, a frustrating day at work. I just have felt a little stressed out. I had been traveling, trying to get back into the swing. I was missing something. So, my situation was not the best to have a discussion with her and to deal with her and to work with her. And so what ended up happening was, I acted out, and that's part of the issue is, there's other things going on. And so because fatherhood can be amazing, it can also be very difficult. I did a video about that. There's, how being a dad is hard. So is being a mom. It's not something that is just, first of all, it doesn't come naturally for most of us. And the techniques and the things, and, from 0 to 5 years old, having these kids is hard. It's a lot of work. You might be tired. Your patience is tested. You're stressed out. And imagine you have other things going on. As you get older, you've got, parents that might be getting older in the aging process, financial issues that you might be having, relationship stress and work stress. So you've got all of these other situations happening. Yeah, it's hard to be a dad. It's hard to, at the end of a stressful day, to come home and to have a smile on your face. Now, at the same time, it's also a state of mind that you could say, you know what? These kids deserve for me to be in a good mood, and they deserve for me to smile. So when I come home, I'm going to be in a good mood. And you're not going to let these other things affect you. So I think we have that option. It's not easy, but that's why we have these videos. And we've got, 80 something videos at this point, all kinds of situations. You can go on YouTube, see all those. We've got them on Facebook. And you can see all of the videos and cover a huge breadth of topics that all of us dads deal with. So that's it. I guess that's what I'm saying is it's not easy. It's something that for this gentleman who I was going to talk with him one-on-one, it's not an easy thing. If you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling down, it's totally normal. It's something that everybody feels. It's a question of just understanding and having tools to be able to get yourself out of it. And to get yourself out of it quickly. Because that is the difference. I talked about this with Angel from Poppy Preschool. That, I think the difference for me of what I've learned over the last couple of years has been to be able to bounce back quickly. So I feel anger, I feel the pain, I feel the stress, I feel all these things the same way that everybody else does. I think my difference of my power has been the ability to bounce back from that quicker, at least than I used to. And so what happens is that when we get knocked down, we often will stay down for a long time. And that's difficult. You don't want to stay down for very long. So as you practice techniques, you learn more patience. You learn more gratitude. You learn empathy. You learn how to communicate better. You learn all of these things. It gives you that ability to bounce back quicker. So that's something that I'd probably end with. I think we've been on now, 40 something minutes? Almost 40 minutes. If you guys have questions, let us know. Want to understand and have some understanding of the topics that maybe you guys feel works. You got some questions on that? Poppy Preschool asks, I'm a little jealous that you're in San Diego. Do you know how to surf? Yes, I do. I grew up surfing. I think it's a requirement. If you're in San Diego, you actually have to surf and skateboard. It's two things that you're not allowed to live here unless you do. So, yes, I grew up surfing and skateboarding. I will say then took in, huge hiatus for many, many years. I grew up in Southern California. A hiatus and not doing it, and then now every once in a while I get a chance to do it. I wouldn't say that I'm an avid surfer, but I did do the Day of Madness, which I can't wait to post this video of this day that we did. There was 12 of us. I'm going to be posting that video soon, in which we did surf, and we did a bunch of other things as well. So I'll be posting that. But yes, I surf. I can ride a skateboard. I wouldn't consider myself a skater, but I did when I was a kid. Wow, it's been a long time. I don't know that I would get back on it and probably hurt myself now. So, but those are things. Yes, we do have. It's pretty beautiful here. We try not to tell people how beautiful it is because everyone keeps moving here. But yes, San Diego is pretty awesome. So, thank you guys for your support as always. Be sure to subscribe to the channels. We've got Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm trying to keep these all straight. Wherever you use social media, be sure to follow us and like us and as well share the content. We appreciate you sharing the content. And if you have questions, as I said, post them in, put in the comments. I read every comment that comes through, and it's really important for us. So with that, we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.